This newscast is brought to you by Qberg, Pittsburgh's source for LGBTQ news and community information. To learn more about Qberg, visit their website at qberg.com. That's QBURGH.com. From the PEP Radio Newsroom, these are the stories we are covering at this hour. A federal judge today has given the administration of President Donald Trump until 11:59 p.m. tonight to restore LGBTQ inclusive informational pages and others recently removed from the websites of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the Food and Drug Administration. The pages were reportedly removed to comply with Trump's executive orders against gender ideology and diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. The more than 80,000 pages removed from over a dozen U.S. government websites following Trump's orders include CDC data on LGBTQ youth, sexual health, contraception guidelines for prescribing birth control, and gender-affirming care, The Hill reported. It's unclear how much overall information was removed or whether it remains backed up elsewhere. A January 29th memo from Trump's Office of Personnel Management instructed all government agencies to remove any public-facing media that inculcate or promote gender ideology by January 31st. While some pages, like the CDC's Atlas tool tracking HIV and STIs, have reappeared, they're less functional than before their removal. The removed information, which also included recommendations for improving clinical studies and treating patients from different genders and cultural backgrounds, is used by countless healthcare workers for research and patient care. A February 4th lawsuit filed by the consumer advocacy group Public Citizen on behalf of the nonprofit organization Doctors for America accused the Trump administration of violating the Paperwork Reduction Act and the Administrative Procedure Act. Both laws require advance warnings and explanations for data removal. U.S. District Judge John D. Bates agreed with the organization's claims that the pages removal caused irreparable harm to medical providers and their patients. The lost materials are more than academic references. They are vital for real-time clinical decision-making in hospitals, clinics, and emergency departments across the country, Bates wrote, according to Ars Technica. Without them, healthcare providers and researchers are left without up-to-date recommendations on managing infectious diseases, public health threats, essential preventive care, and chronic conditions. Finally, it bears emphasizing who ultimately bears the harm of defendants' actions: everyday Americans, and most acutely, underprivileged Americans seeking health care. In his Tuesday ruling and order, Bates, an appointee of former President George W. Bush, directed the Department of Health and Human Services, the department that oversees the CDC and the FDA, to restore pages mentioned in the lawsuit and to work with the doctors' organization to identify any additional pages that they rely on. It's unclear if the Trump administration will comply with the judge's order. Various administration officials have signaled their intention not to follow court orders, leaving it unclear who will try to enforce the court decisions, if anybody. In other news, two major LGBTQ organizations have suffered difficult setbacks. Both GLSEN and the Human Rights Campaign have recently announced a major layoff, with HRC planning to lose 20% of its workforce and GLSEN losing a whopping 60% of its staff. Both organizations claim the layoffs will not affect their strong resistance to the Trump administration. GLSEN Executive Director Melanie Willingham-Jaggers said the organization has experienced a sharp revenue loss and the layoffs are part of plans to right-size the educational advocacy organization. We are not an injured version of the GLSEN we were before Monday. We are a new organization, they told the Advocate, confirming 18 employees had been laid off. Right-sizing is bringing attention to the conditions, responding to the conditions, and being humble enough to do what is possible for us to survive, for us to be impactful, and for us to be sustainable. We're not doing the work of 42 people with 17 people, they added. We're doing the critical work of 17 people in a way that is most humane, most sustainable, and most impactful. In a statement to LGBTQ Nation, William Jaggers said the smaller staff will not render the organization less effective and that the work will be more focused and directed to areas that will have more impact. This is a clarifying moment, they said. GLSEN's North Star and mission will continue to advocate for inclusive and equitable policies, shape the national conversation on systemic change and education justice, strengthen our national movement by working locally across the country via our chapter network, and equip youth, families, and educators with the necessary support, training, tools, strategy, and community building networks to create change in their local communities. They told Advocate relentless right-wing attacks over the past several years contributed to the funding dip. In the desire to grow our way out of problems of scale, we hit a ceiling, and then our revenue hit a cliff because of right-wing attacks. They saw Target back off, and then they came for us even harder. Here they are referring to Target's decision to remove certain Pride merchandise from its shelves after conservatives launched a boycott of the stores. Additionally, they said the overall right-wing crusade against diversity, equity, and inclusion has led to waning engagement from corporate donors. That's the news at this hour. Be sure to download the Live 365 app to take PEP Radio with you wherever you go. If you're watching this newscast on YouTube, please be sure to click the subscribe button. Well, time now for more music on PEP Radio.